Shares in nuclear power companies, also some uranium producers and some electricity generators jumped today after Reuters reported that US President Donald Trump will sign executive orders aimed at jump-starting the nuclear industry. Let's get more from Rob Thummel, a senior portfolio manager at Tortoise Capital. Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, this is not new in that the US administration has expressed support for nuclear quite vehemently over the past few months.
No, that's exactly right. So obviously in the U.S. is trying to maintain its dominance in AI and artificial intelligence. And as we all have learned, really the big regulator on AI is the amount of electricity that needs to be generated. So the U.S. is going to need a lot more electricity. The world's going to need a lot more electricity. And so the U.S. is looking for all sources to really generate as much electricity as soon as possible to really help continue the development of AI. And nuclear is one of those solutions.
Oklo, a builder of, or would-be developer of reactors, the CEO is quoted by Dow Jones as saying it's hard to overstate the opportunities for improvements in the regulations. For one thing, he says, I have to work with multiple agencies to get things done.
Yeah, so what Oklo is doing is an entirely new technology. So that's why I think the CEO is looking for as much opportunity to reduce the regulatory burden as possible, because it's a brand new technology. These small modular nuclear reactors that Oklo is building, different design, so it's going to have to go through multiple levels of approvals in order to get that technology approved by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission for Oklo to begin producing electricity. And so that will just what it will ultimately do, or could do, if we're able to reduce the regulatory timeline, is really reduce or increase the speed at which Oklo will be able to produce its small modular nuclear reactors. Now, that's assuming that the technology is effective and can be commercialized as well. And there's still some work to be done there as well.
The NuScale is another company that is the only one to get approval from the central regulator for its small modular reactor. But it looks like, especially with the new technology, it looks like it's going to take years before any electricity starts coming out.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that's a good point that you just made. So NuScale is the only small modular nuclear reactor or nuclear company that has a license from the regulatory commissions. There are none others in the U.S. And so that's the first step. But as a result, we don't expect that these small modular nuclear reactors will really generate a meaningful amount of electricity until beyond 2030. Mm-hmm.
They're talking about the Manhattan Project 2, a reference to the development of the atomic bombs in World War II. That was Chris Wright, the U.S. Energy Secretary. It's interesting. Apparently, America spent more developing the B-29 bomber, but we won't get bogged down on that. It just seems that the regulatory barnacles and massive bureaucratic structures here will be hard to just sweep away.
Yeah, I think the way to think about it, and by the way, Secretary Wright has a nuclear background as well, and so he's probably the best position to usher the U.S. through this environment. But that said, keep in mind, it's a little different now, right? I mean, so existing nuclear reactors, you want to be very, very cautious with all nuclear reactors and improving them all. But if they're in close to big cities, that's a big deal. You want to be very careful with. It'll be a little different this time because some of these small modular nuclear reactors are smaller, and they can be built in more remote areas of the country because you can build these data centers right next to them in more remote areas of the country. And so this will be very interesting. It's a little bit of a difference. It's a little bit of a nuance to the construction that's happened in the past. And so that really affords the opportunity for the regulatory environment to be reevaluated to determine if it can be a little bit different this time.
I mean, you might think the Chinese seem to have fewer problems. They are a dictatorship, so they can sweep aside objections more easily. I suppose you might think, well, bring them in to build the plants, but people to be too worried about buried viruses and stuff in the control equipment.
Yeah, I don't think that. You're right. I don't think that's going to happen. But the government, the federal government, does have some land. So I think one of the things that, and I'll be interested to read in this executive order, potentially these facilities could be built on federal land.
Right.
There's a lot of uranium in New Mexico, so you got to build the value chain as well, but you got to have the land to start with, and so that's one opportunity is potentially put them on existing federal land.
It is interesting. America is considering a massive investment in improving its nuclear weapons arsenal as well. And there's to and fro among New Mexico residents over that thing. Of course, New Mexico has a legacy in some communities of uranium pollution. Do you think we'll see, would you buy uranium producing stocks, mining stocks now, given that it's going to take years before new demand actually materializes in the USA?
Yeah, I do think it's a little early to be buying the stocks right now. At Tortoise, we do think there's an all-of-the-above approach. We do think that the U.S. is going to maintain its dominance in AI. We do think that electricity demand growth is going to grow significantly and materially over the next really decade and probably beyond that. And in order for this electricity demand to be met, you're going to need multiple forms of fuel sources. So you're going to need natural gas. You're going to need coal. You're going to need nuclear. We would like to see more nuclear and more natural gas, less coal, and then we'll likely see some wind and solar as well. And so it'll be an all of the above approach, I think, to solving this really what is a good problem to have, which is higher electricity demand and the opportunity to really advance the development of AI in a rapid fashion through low cost, lower carbon electricity.
Rob, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Rob Thummel, Senior Portfolio Manager at Tortoise Capital.